The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched wide like a metal canyon. 12 different alien races sat in their special seats, each built to fit their strange bodies. Some were tall and thin like walking trees. Others were short and round like living rocks. A few looked like giant lizards with scales that changed colors when they got angry or excited. Ambassador Junho walked slowly to the center of the hall. His black suit looked plain next to all the fancy alien clothes and armor around him. The human was not tall or strong-looking. His hair was getting gray at the sides, and his face showed the lines of someone who had worried about many things for many years. The other aliens watched him with eyes that did not seem to care much. Some even made small sounds that might have been laughing. To them, humans were still new to space travel. Earth had only learned to fly faster than light 50 years ago. Most of these aliens had been flying between stars for thousands of years. Junho stopped at the speaking platform. He put his hands on the smooth metal surface and looked up at the circle of alien faces around him. His voice was calm and clear when he spoke. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," Junho began, "I come before you today with an urgent warning about the Outer Rim territories. Our scouts have found increased pirate activity in the Kepler 442 system. These are not small raids anymore. The pirates have new ships and better weapons. They are getting bolder." A sound like grinding stone came from the crystalline hegemony section. High Admiral Kethmore, whose body looked like it was made of living blue crystal, made the noise that was their way of showing they did not believe something. "Pirates," Kethmore said, his voice sounding like wind through a cave. "And what would humans know about real pirates? Your people have been in space for barely a moment. We have fought space pirates since before your son was born." Several other aliens made agreeing sounds. The Saurian Empire representative, Counselor Vexthara, unfolded her long neck. Her scales shifted from green to yellow, which meant she was feeling superior to someone else. "Yes," Vexthara hissed. "Tell us, little human, what makes you think these pirates are so dangerous? Did they steal some of your cargo ships? Did they damage your simple mining stations?" Junho did not get angry. He had expected this. He touched a button on his wrist device and a hologram appeared above the platform. It showed a star map with red dots moving through several systems. "In the last 6 months," Junho continued, "we have tracked 47 separate pirate fleets. They are not using the old ships we used to see. These new vessels have energy shields that can stop most weapons. They have faster engines than anything we have seen before, and they are working together in ways that pirates never did before." The hologram changed to show pictures of destroyed space stations and burned planets. The damage was much worse than what space pirates usually did. They destroyed the mining colony on Kellar 7. 3,000 beings died there. They wiped out the trade station at Narration Point. That was 12,000 more deaths. This is not normal pirate behavior. Someone is giving them orders. Someone is giving them better weapons. A few aliens in the hall shifted in their seats. The pictures were troubling, even to beings who had seen many wars. But most still looked like they did not believe this was a real problem. Fleet Admiral Hyunwoo's image appeared as a hologram next to Junho. The Korean military leader was older than the ambassador, with short gray hair and eyes that had seen many battles. His uniform was simple but clean, with small metal badges that showed his rank. "Counselors," Admiral Hyunwoo said with respect, "we have been tracking these pirate movements for 8 months. They are not random attacks. Look at this pattern." The star map changed again. Lines appeared connecting all the places that had been attacked. The lines made a shape that was moving toward the center of known space where most of the civilized worlds were located. "They are testing our defenses," Hyunwoo explained. "Each attack teaches them more about how we fight back. Each victory makes them stronger. We believe they are preparing for something much bigger." Vexthara's scales turned bright orange, which meant she was getting angry. "So what do you want us to do about it, humans? Send our mighty fleets to protect your little territory? Are you too weak to handle some pirates on your own?" "We are not asking for protection," Junho said firmly. "We are asking for coordination. We have established defensive measures around the Kepler 442 system. We request that all Council fleets avoid that area while we deal with the pirate threat." The hall fell quiet for a moment. Then several aliens began making the sounds that meant they found something very funny. The laughter started small but grew louder. High Admiral Kethmore's crystal body flashed with bright blue light. "Defensive measures? What could humans possibly set up that would worry a real military fleet? Your most advanced ships are barely equal to our cargo haulers. The Kepler 442 system is now under Earth Defense Force protection. Admiral Hyunwoo said, his voice staying calm. We have placed significant military assets in that region. Any ships entering without permission may be considered hostile. This made the aliens laugh even harder. A being that looked like a giant octopus with metal arms slapped the floor with its tentacles. Others made hooting and clicking sounds that filled the great hall. Counselor Vexithara stood up on her powerful hind legs. She was 3 times taller than any human, and her teeth were as long as knives when she opened her mouth to speak. Let me understand this correctly, she said, her voice dripping with mockery. The humans who learned to build spaceships just 50 years ago want the Galactic Council to avoid a star system because they have placed some defensive measures there? She looked around the hall at the other representatives. These are the same humans whose greatest warships carry weapons that were outdated 300 years ago. These are the beings whose fastest ships would lose a race to our civilian passenger craft, and they want us to be afraid of their military assets? The laughter grew louder. Even some of the more serious alien races were making small amused sounds. Junho waited for the noise to quiet down. When he spoke again, his voice was still calm, but there was something harder in it now. We are not asking you to be afraid, he said. We are asking you to be smart. The pirate fleets have been using the Kepler 442 system as a staging area. We know this because we have been watching them. We have been preparing what? High Admiral Kethmore asked, his crystal body now pulsing with bright light that meant he was very amused. A few nuclear missiles? Some simple laser cannons? Perhaps you have built some orbital platforms with chemical rockets? Admiral Hyunwoo's hologram flickered slightly. The specific details of our defensive preparations are classified, but I can tell you that any fleet entering the Kepler 442 system without permission will face significant resistance. Resistance from what? Vexthara demanded. Your entire planet has fewer warships than most of our single fleet groups. Even if you gathered every human vessel in space, you could not challenge a proper military force. The human admiral was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his words were very careful. We have been preparing for this threat for longer than you might think. Our defensive capabilities are not what they appear to be. This just made the aliens laugh harder. Several representatives were now talking to each other, not even pretending to listen to the humans anymore. The vote was taken quickly. Of the 12 major races, 11 voted to ignore Earth's warning. Only Earth voted to respect the restricted zone around Kepler 442. As the meeting ended, Counselor Vexthara made one final announcement that made Junho's heart sink. The 9th Fleet of the Saurian Empire will patrol the Kepler 442 system, she declared. We will show these pirates what real military power looks like. And we will show the humans what happens when children try to play games with adults. The 9th Fleet was the Saurian Empire's most powerful military force. It had 847 ships, including 12 massive dreadnoughts that could destroy entire planets. It had never lost a battle in 300 years of service. As Junho left the Great Hall, he activated his communication device and sent a coded message to Earth. The message was very short but very important. They are coming. Back on Earth, in a hidden command center deep underground, Fleet Admiral Hyunwoo received the message. He looked at the other officers around him and nodded slowly. Begin final preparations, he ordered. Activate Protocol Omega, and may the universe have mercy on anyone who ignored our warning. The Saurian dreadnought Void Render moved through space like a metal mountain. It was 5 kilometers long and covered with weapons that could turn a moon into dust. Behind it, 846 other ships followed in perfect formation. The 9th Fleet looked like a moving city of war machines, each one bigger and more dangerous than anything humans had ever built. Fleet Commander Zalketh stood on the bridge of the Void Render, looking out at the stars ahead. He was huge even for a Saurian, with dark green scales and yellow eyes that had seen 100 battles. His claws tapped against the metal railing as he watched the sensor displays. How much longer until we reach the human system? He asked his navigation officer. The smaller Saurian checked his instruments. 18 hours, Fleet Commander. We will drop out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Zalketh made a sound that was like a growl mixed with laughter. Good. I want to finish this quickly. These humans have been playing games for too long. It is time to show them what real power looks like. His second-in-command, Captain Morgeth, moved up beside him. She was smaller than Zalketh, but still twice the size of any human. Her scales were lighter green and she had scars on her face from old battles. Fleet Commander, she said, do you think the humans will actually try to fight us? Their technology is so primitive. It would be like watching children throw rocks at a starship. Zalketh's eyes glowed brighter. I hope they do try to fight. It has been too long since the Ninth Fleet had a real battle. Even if it only lasts a few minutes, it will be good training for our newer officers. Around them, other Saurian officers worked at their stations. They all looked confident and relaxed. To them, this was not a dangerous mission. It was more like a parade, a chance to show off their power to some primitives who had forgotten their place in the galaxy. The fleet traveled through space for many hours. When they finally dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, the first thing they saw was normal space traffic. Human cargo ships moved slowly between planets, carrying goods and supplies. Mining vessels worked around asteroids, breaking up rocks to find useful metals. A few small patrol boats moved in wide circles, watching for pirates or other threats. This is it? Captain Morgeth asked, sounding disappointed. Where are the great defensive measures the humans talked about? Zalketh studied the sensor readings. The human ships were so small that his flagship could probably destroy 20 of them with a single shot. Their energy signatures showed they were using nuclear fusion reactors, which was technology the Saurians had stopped using 1,000 years ago. Fleet Commander, the communication officer called out. We are receiving a transmission from a human vessel. Put it through, Zalketh ordered. The main screen showed the bridge of a small human cargo ship. The captain was a middle-aged Korean man with graying hair and kind eyes. He wore a simple blue uniform that looked more like work clothes than a military outfit. Greetings, the human said, bowing his head slightly. I am Captain Deho of the freight vessel Morning Star. Welcome to the Kepler 442 system. For navigation safety purposes, please register your fleet presence with Earth Defense Control. They will provide you with safe passage routes and help you avoid any mining operations or scheduled cargo movements. Several Saurian officers started laughing. The idea that their mighty war fleet needed to ask permission to fly through space seemed very funny to them. Zalketh leaned forward in his command chair. When he spoke, his voice was loud and threatening. Human, I am Fleet Commander Zalketh of the Ninth Fleet Saurian Empire. We go where we choose to go. We do not ask permission from primitives. Captain Deho's face remained calm and polite. I understand, Fleet Commander. However, this system has been designated as a military zone by Earth Defense Command. There may be hazards that your sensors cannot detect. For your own safety, I strongly recommend that you contact our Defense Control Center. The laughter on the Saurian bridge got louder. Captain Morgeth was now making the choking sound that Saurians made when they found something extremely amusing. Hazards? She repeated. What hazards could humans possibly create that would threaten the Ninth Fleet? On the screen, Captain Deho looked sad, like a teacher whose students refused to listen to an important lesson. Fleet Commander, please reconsider. Earth Defense Command is tracking your approach and has classified your fleet as potentially hostile. If you continue without registering, they may take defensive action. Zalketh's eyes flashed with anger. He stood up from his chair, towering over the communication station. Let them take defensive action. I want to see what the humans think they can do against 800 ships of war. The communication ended. Captain Deho's image disappeared from the screen. Fleet Commander, the sensor officer called out. I am detecting energy signatures from defensive installations around the outer planets. They appear to be simple orbital platforms, probably armed with nuclear missiles or basic energy weapons. Zalketh looked at the tactical display. The human defensive positions were marked with red dots. There were maybe 50 of them spread throughout the system. Each one was much smaller than a Saurian warship. How pathetic, he said. They built some missile platforms and think they can challenge us. Begin standard attack formation. We will destroy their defenses first, then teach them a lesson they will not forget. The Ninth Fleet began to spread out into battle formation. The biggest ships moved to the front, while smaller escort vessels took positions on the sides. It was a formation designed to destroy entire enemy fleets, not to fight a few orbital platforms. As they moved deeper into the system, another human ship appeared on their sensors. This one was different from the cargo vessels they had seen before. It was sleeker and faster, painted in military colors. Fleet Commander, the communication officer said, another human vessel is trying to contact us. Ignore them, Zalketh ordered. We have heard enough human words today. But the human ship kept following them, staying just out of weapon range. Finally, Zalketh got annoyed and ordered the communication to be opened. This time, the screen showed a young Korean man in a military uniform. Lieutenant Minho looked very serious and his voice was firm when he spoke. "Fleet Commander Zalketh," he said, "I am Lieutenant Minho of the Earth Defense Force. You are now entering a restricted military zone. This is your final warning. Turn your fleet around and leave this system immediately or face the consequences." The entire Saurian bridge fell silent for a moment. Then Zalketh began to laugh so hard that his whole body shook. The other officers joined in until the bridge was filled with the sound of Saurian amusement. "Final warning?" Zalketh roared. "From what?" "One little patrol boat, human. Do you have any idea who you are talking to? This is the 9th fleet of the Saurian Empire. We have destroyed entire civilizations. We have turned planets into burning rocks. And you think you can warn us away with one small ship?" Lieutenant Minho's expression did not change. "Fleet Commander, I am not warning you about my ship. I am warning you about what will happen if you continue. Please, for your own sake and the sake of your crews, turn around now." Zalketh was getting tired of this game. "Human, you have 10 seconds to get out of our way before we turn your ship into scrap metal." "I am sorry you have chosen this path," Lieutenant Minho said quietly. "Earth Defense Command has been notified of your hostile intent. Protocol Omega is now active. May the universe have mercy on your souls." The communication ended. The human patrol ship turned and flew away at high speed, disappearing into the asteroid fields around the system's outer edge. Captain Morgeth looked confused. "Protocol Omega? What do you think that means?" Zalketh shrugged his massive shoulders. "Probably their emergency plan. Maybe they are going to hide behind their platforms and shoot missiles at us. It does not matter. We will crush whatever they throw at us." Unknown to the Saurians, deep inside an asteroid that looked like just another space rock, Admiral Su-young sat in a hidden command center. Her short black hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her dark eyes were focused on the screens around her. She had been watching the 9th Fleet since they entered the system, tracking every ship and analyzing their weapons. "Admiral," one of her officers said, "the Saurian fleet has rejected our final warning. They are maintaining course toward the inner system." Admiral Su-young nodded slowly. She had hoped it would not come to this, but she had been preparing for this day for many years. Around her, dozens of human officers worked at stations that looked far more advanced than anything the Saurians had seen on the simple cargo ships. "Very well," she said calmly. "Signal all defensive platforms. Begin Phase 1 of Protocol Omega. And may history forgive us for what we are about to do." In space around the Kepler 442 system, the small defensive platforms that the Saurians had dismissed as primitive missile batteries began to change. Energy fields flickered around them as systems that had been hidden deep inside their cores came online for the first time. The 9th Fleet continued forward, confident in their overwhelming power. They had no idea that they were flying into a trap that had been 50 years in the making. Admiral Su-young watched the tactical display as the 9th Fleet moved deeper into her trap. The Saurian ships spread out in their attack formation, looking like hungry predators approaching what they thought was easy prey. She had studied this formation in military academy 20 years ago. It was designed to overwhelm enemies with pure firepower, not to deal with unconventional threats. "Phase 1 is complete," reported Colonel Wu Jin from his station. He was a thin man with sharp eyes and quick hands that never stopped moving over his controls. "All infiltration teams are in position aboard the Saurian vessels." Su-young nodded. The infiltration had been the most dangerous part of the operation. For the past 6 hours, while the Saurians laughed at simple human cargo ships, Colonel Wu Jin's special forces had been quietly boarding their vessels. They had used maintenance pods that looked like simple repair robots, cargo containers that seemed to hold mining equipment, and even some of Captain Daeho's crew members who had volunteered for the mission. "Dr. Yunji," Su-young called to the chief scientist, "are the phase shift platforms ready?" Dr. Yunji looked up from her control station. She was younger than the Admiral, with long black hair tied in a simple ponytail, and glasses that reflected the light from her screens. Her voice was calm, but Su-young could hear the excitement underneath. "All platforms are charged and ready, Admiral. The phase shift generators are operating at full power. We can begin the transition at your command." Su-young took a deep breath. What they were about to do had never been tested on this scale before. The technology was based on theories that most alien scientists said were impossible. But Dr. Yunji and her team had spent 15 years proving that impossible was just another word for difficult. Captain Ji-won, Su-young said into her headset. Are you in position? The response came from somewhere deep in space, where the stealth frigate Silent Arrow moved like a ghost between the Saurian ships. Captain Ji-won's voice was whispered as if speaking too loudly might give away her location. In position, Admiral. My ship is cloaked and ready. The Saurians cannot detect us even when we pass directly in front of their sensors. Su-young looked one more time at the display. 847 enemy ships carrying 400,000 alien warriors. Each one of those ships could destroy entire human cities. Together they represented enough firepower to turn Earth into a dead rock floating in space. But the Saurians had made one critical mistake. They had assumed that humans would fight like everyone else in the galaxy. They had expected orbital bombardment, missile exchanges, and direct ship-to-ship combat. They had no idea that humanity had learned to think differently about war. Begin Protocol Omega, Admiral Su-young ordered, Fleet Commander. Zalketh was studying the tactical display on his bridge when the first strange thing happened. It was so small that he almost missed it. One of the instruments on his command console flickered for just a moment, then returned to normal. Engineering, he called out. Are there any problems with the bridge systems? The response came back quickly. No problems detected, Fleet Commander. All systems are operating normally. Zalketh shrugged and returned his attention to the approaching human defensive platforms. They still looked pathetically small compared to his mighty fleet. He was planning to destroy them one at a time, slowly, to make the lesson more clear for any humans who might be watching. Then another instrument flickered. And another. Captain Morgeth, Zalketh called to his second-in-command. Are you seeing these system fluctuations? Morgeth checked her own displays. Minor electrical variations, Fleet Commander. Probably just interference from the system's star. Nothing to worry about. But on 17 other Saurian ships, the same small problems were starting. A navigation computer would freeze for a few seconds. A weapon targeting system would reset itself. A communication array would crackle with static. Each problem was tiny and seemed unrelated to the others. Deep in the engine room of the dreadnought Worldbreaker, Sergeant Jinwoo crouched inside a maintenance shaft that was barely large enough for his small human body. He wore a black uniform that made him nearly invisible in the dark spaces between the ship's massive systems. In his hands was a device that looked like a simple repair tool, but was actually something much more dangerous. The device was connected to the ship's main power grid through hair-thin wires that the Saurian engineers would never notice. With each button press, Jinwoo sent carefully designed electrical surges through the ship's systems. The surges were too small to cause immediate damage, but they planted tiny software viruses in the ship's computer networks. Target 17. Phase 1 complete, he whispered into his throat microphone. Moving to Phase 2. All around the 9th Fleet, 43 other human Special Forces soldiers were doing the same thing. They had trained for this mission for 3 years, learning every detail of Saurian ship design. They knew exactly which systems to target, and exactly how to make a mighty warship helpless without firing a single shot. On the bridge of the Void Render, the small problems were starting to get bigger. Fleet Commander Zalketh watched with growing concern as more and more systems began to malfunction. Engineering, he roared. What is happening down there? We are investigating, Fleet Commander, came the nervous reply. We have minor faults in 17 different systems, but we cannot find the cause. It appears to be some kind of cascade failure. Before Zalketh could respond, something happened that made every Saurian on the bridge freeze in shock. The defensive platforms around the outer planet simply vanished. One moment they were there on the sensors, small but clearly visible. The next moment they were gone, as if they had never existed at all. Sensor malfunction, Captain Morgeth shouted. The platforms cannot just disappear. But the platforms had not malfunctioned. Around Dr. Yunji's hidden command post, her team monitored the phase shift operation with growing excitement. The platforms had not disappeared. They had moved into a parallel dimension that existed right next to normal space. Phase shift successful, Dr. Yunji reported. All 53 platforms have transitioned to parallel space. They are invisible to normal sensors but can still affect our universe when needed. It had taken humanity 30 years to understand the mathematics behind parallel dimensions. It had taken another 15 years to build technology that could actually use them. The Saurians, for all their military might, had never even imagined such a thing was possible. Admiral Su-Yung smiled grimly. Excellent. Captain Ji-Wan, you may begin your attack run. In space near the Saurian fleet, the stealth frigate Silent Arrow decloaked just long enough to fire a single, perfectly aimed shot. But this was not a shot designed to destroy. Instead, it carried a special electromagnetic pulse that spread through the Saurian formation like an invisible wave. The pulse hit the ships at exactly the same moment that Colonel Wu Jin's infiltration teams activated their hidden viruses. The combination was devastating. On ship after ship, main power systems began to shut down. Life support switched to emergency backup. Weapon systems went offline. Communication arrays fell silent. Fleet Commander, the engineering officer's voice crackled over the failing communication system. We have total system failure. Main power is down to 30% and falling. Zalketh looked around his bridge in confusion and growing fear. Half the lights had gone out. Most of the control stations were dark. The great tactical display that showed the positions of all his ships was flickering and distorted. What is happening? He demanded. How are they doing this to us? But no one had an answer. Around the fleet, ship after ship was going dark. The massive dreadnoughts, which had seemed so powerful just minutes before, were now drifting helplessly in space. Their crews worked frantically to restore power, but the human viruses were designed to fight back against any repair attempts. Captain Ji-Wan's frigate moved through the dying fleet like a silent shadow. Her ship used technology that bent light around it, making it completely invisible to Saurian sensors. She could fly directly in front of an enemy vessel, and they would see nothing but empty space. Admiral, she reported over her secure communication channel, the electromagnetic pulse was successful. Enemy fleet power levels are dropping rapidly. Estimate complete system failure in 18 minutes. Understood. Admiral Su-Yung replied. Phase 3, begin parallel space bombardment. Around the system, the invisible defensive platforms began to fire, but these were not normal weapons. The platforms existed in parallel space, which meant their shots could pass through normal matter, like it was made of air. The weapons were designed to target specific systems inside the Saurian ships without damaging anything else. On the bridge of the Void Render, Zalketh watched his mighty fleet die around him. Ship after ship went completely dark as their power systems failed. Emergency lights flickered and went out. The artificial gravity that kept everyone on their feet began to weaken. Send a message to the Galactic Council, he ordered desperately. Tell them we are under attack by unknown forces. Tell them the humans have weapons we have never seen before. The communication officer worked frantically at his failing station. I cannot establish contact, Fleet Commander. All our communication arrays are offline. 3 months after the 9th Fleet disappeared, the investigation ship Truthseeker arrived at the edge of the Kepler 4042 system. The vessel belonged to the Galactic Council and carried investigators from 7 different alien races, all trying to solve the greatest military mystery in known history. Inspector Johann stood on the bridge of the Truthseeker, looking out at the stars where 847 warships had simply vanished. He was one of only 3 humans on the investigation team, brought in because of Earth's local knowledge of the system. His colleagues from other worlds had not wanted human involvement, but they needed every advantage they could get. Still nothing on long-range sensors, reported Chief Investigator Morden, whose crystalline body pulsed with nervous blue light. No debris, no energy signatures, no trace of what happened here. The crystalline hegemony official had been chosen to lead the investigation because his people were known for their logical thinking and attention to detail. But 3 months of searching had found nothing. It was as if the most powerful fleet in the galaxy had been erased from existence. Dr. Hyun, a human scientist who specialized in studying alien technology, worked at her station near the back of the bridge. Her equipment was different from what the other investigators used, designed to detect things that alien sensors might miss. She had been very quiet during the trip to Kepler 442, spending most of her time reading old reports and studying star charts. Inspector Johann, she called out softly. I think I found something. Johann walked over to her station. Dr. Hyun was younger than him, with short black hair and glasses that made her look more like a teacher than an investigator. But he had worked with her before and knew she was one of the best scientists Earth had ever produced. What is it? He asked. Radiation traces, she replied, pointing to her screen. Very faint, but they match Saurian engine signatures. The pattern suggests the fleet was here, moving in standard attack formation, but then... She paused, frowning at the data. Then what? Chief Investigator Morden asked, moving over to join them. His crystal body was now glowing brighter with interest. Then they just stopped, Dr. Hayen said. The engine signatures cut off all at once like someone threw a switch. But there are no signs of weapons fire, no explosion residue, no evidence of battle damage. Commander Kyung-soo, the Earth Defense Force liaison assigned to help the investigation, stepped forward. He was a military man with gray hair and careful eyes that seemed to notice everything around him. He had been polite but not very helpful during the investigation, always saying that Earth's files were classified, or that he did not have permission to share certain information. Commander, Chief Investigator Mordoon said, surely your people must have some record of what happened here. This occurred in your system, after all. Commander Kyung-soo nodded slowly. We detected some unusual energy readings during the time period in question. However, our records are limited. Earth Defense Command was dealing with increased pirate activity at the time, so most of our attention was focused on protecting civilian shipping lanes. It was the same answer he had given for weeks, and everyone knew it was not the whole truth. But the human government had been very clear that certain military information could not be shared, even with a Galactic Council investigation. What about the defensive platforms you mentioned in your warning to the Council? Asked Investigator Velthar, a tall, thin alien whose people were known for their sharp questions. Surely those installations recorded something. The platforms were destroyed during the pirate attacks that preceded the fleet's arrival, Commander Kyung-soo replied smoothly. Unfortunately, their sensor logs were lost. Dr. Hayen looked up from her screen again. Inspector Johan, I want to take a survey team to the inner system. There are some unusual readings around the fourth planet that might tell us more. Chief Investigator Mordun's crystal body flashed with concern. Is that safe? We still do not know what happened to the Ninth Fleet. Whatever destroyed them might still be active. The readings are very faint, Dr. Hayen assured him, and we will take full precautions. I just want to do a quick survey of the planet's dark side. There are some energy patterns there that do not match normal geological activity. 3 hours later, Dr. Hayen led a small team to the surface of Kepler 442c, the fourth planet in the system. It was a cold, dead world with no atmosphere. But her sensors had detected something unusual on the side that always faced away from the system's star. The landing shuttle set down in a valley between two mountain ranges. The landscape was gray and empty, covered with ancient craters and nothing else. But as soon as Dr. Hayen activated her portable scanner, she knew they had found something important. Inspector, she called over the radio. You need to see this. Johan and the other team members gathered around her scanner. The screen showed a massive underground structure, hidden beneath the planet's surface. It was huge, easily large enough to hold hundreds of starships. What is it? Asked analyst Sunmi, another human team member who specialized in data interpretation. She was young and very smart, with quick fingers that could make computers do things their designers never intended. Some kind of facility, Dr. Hayen replied. Very advanced construction, but the energy signature is mostly dormant. Like it is in standby mode. They followed the scanner readings to a section of the valley floor that looked like every other piece of empty rock. But when Dr. Hayen ran her equipment over it, the readings spiked. There is an entrance here, she announced. Concealed, but definitely artificial. It took them 2 hours to figure out how to open the hidden doorway. When they finally succeeded, what they found inside made everyone forget how to speak for several minutes. The underground facility was enormous. It stretched out further than their lights could reach, filled with row after row of starships. Not just any starships, but vessels from dozens of different civilizations. Some were clearly pirate ships with their mismatched weapons and patched hulls. Others were military vessels from minor powers that had supposedly been destroyed in various battles over the years. And in the center of the vast space, perfectly preserved and undamaged, sat 847 ships of the Saurian Ninth Fleet. By all the stars, whispered Inspector Johan. They are all here. Every single one. The ships looked exactly as they had in the official fleet records. Their hulls were undamaged. Their weapons were intact. Even their running lights were still blinking slowly, as if the ships were only sleeping. Analyst Sunmi was already taking readings with her portable computer. Life support systems are active but minimal, she reported, her voice shaking with excitement. The ships are in some kind of preservation mode. And Inspector, I am detecting life signs. Life signs? Dr. Hayan asked. How many? Sunmi checked her readings twice before answering. All of them. Every single crew member from every single ship. They are alive but in some kind of suspended animation. Dr. Hayan moved closer to the nearest Saurian vessel, a massive cruiser that could have destroyed entire cities. Through the transparent metal of an observation port, she could see Saurian warriors standing at their stations, perfectly still like statues. Their eyes were closed and they seemed to be breathing very slowly. They are not dead, she breathed. They are just paused. Inspector Johann activated his communication device to contact the investigation ship. Chief Investigator Morden, we have found them. We have found the entire Ninth Fleet, and you are not going to believe where they are. Back on the Truthseeker, Chief Investigator Morden listened to the report with growing amazement and fear. When Johann finished describing what they had found, the crystalline being was pulsing so brightly that other crew members had to shield their eyes. Inspector Johann, Morden said carefully, are you telling me that someone captured the entire Ninth Fleet without destroying a single ship or killing a single crew member? That is exactly what I am telling you, Johann replied. And sir, there are thousands of other ships here too. This facility has been collecting vessels for decades, maybe longer. Commander Kyung-soo, who had been listening to the conversation, stepped forward. His expression was very serious but not surprised. Chief Investigator, he said formally, I need to contact Earth Defense Command immediately. This discovery has significant security implications for our system. Commander, Morden said, his crystal body now pulsing with suspicious yellow light. Did your people know about this facility? Commander Kyung-soo was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his words were very careful. The Kepler 442 system contains several classified Earth defense installations. I cannot comment on their specific nature or capabilities without authorization from my superiors. Cannot or will not, Morden demanded. Both, Kyung-soo replied calmly. On the planet below, analyst Sunmi was working her way through the computer systems of the facility, trying to understand how it operated. Her fingers moved quickly over her portable equipment as she accessed database after database. Inspector, she called out. I think I understand what happened here. This facility is not just a prison, it is a processing center. Look at this. She showed him her screen, which displayed a complex diagram of the facility's operations. The ships are brought here through some kind of dimensional transport system. 6 months after the investigation team returned from Kepler 442, the Galactic Council held its most important emergency session in 300 years. Every major civilization had sent their highest representatives. Some came in person, others appeared as holograms, but all of them were afraid. The Great Council Hall looked different now. Where once there had been laughter and casual conversation, now there was only nervous silence. The alien representatives sat in their chairs like students waiting for a test they had not studied for. They whispered to each other in worried voices, asking the same questions over and over. What did the humans really know? How long had they been hiding their true capabilities? And most importantly, what did they want? Ambassador Junho walked into the hall exactly as he had 6 months ago. He wore the same simple black suit and carried the same quiet dignity. But this time, when he moved to the center of the chamber, every alien eye followed him with fearful respect. The ambassador was not alone. Behind him walked Fleet Admiral Hyunwoo, whose presence had been just a hologram last time. The Korean military leader looked exactly as he had before, with his gray hair and calm eyes. But now the aliens could see the real power behind his patient expression. President Minji followed them both. She was Earth's first president since joining the Galactic Council, elected after the old government decided that humanity needed stronger leadership for the coming changes. She was younger than the two men, with long black hair and intelligent eyes that seemed to see everything at once. The three humans reached the center of the chamber and stopped. The silence in the hall was so complete that everyone could hear the soft humming of the air circulation systems. Ambassador Junho spoke first, his voice carrying clearly to every corner of the great space. Honored members of the Galactic Council, he began, we gathered today to discuss a new chapter in galactic civilization. The investigation into the disappearance of the Ninth Fleet has revealed certain facts that require us to reconsider our relationships with each other. High Admiral Kethmore, whose crystal body had been pulsing nervously since the humans entered, finally spoke up. Ambassador Juno, the investigation found thousands of ships in your system. Ships that disappeared over decades. Ships that your people claimed to know nothing about. That is correct, Junho replied calmly. Earth Defense Command has been conducting containment operations in our region of space for approximately 53 years. These operations were designed to protect civilian shipping and maintain regional stability. Counselor Vex Thara, the Saurian representative, stood up from her chair. Her scales were shifting between orange and red, colors that meant she was both angry and afraid at the same time. Containment operations? She hissed. You captured our most powerful fleet. You have been secretly eliminating ships throughout this sector. How many of our vessels have you taken? President Minji stepped forward to answer. When she spoke, her voice was firm but not threatening. Over the past 5 decades, Earth Defense Command has contained 3,247 hostile vessels. This includes pirate ships, raiders, illegal military patrols, and ships that entered our territory with hostile intent. All crews are alive and unharmed, held in temporal stasis pending resolution of their legal status. The number hit the alien representatives like a physical blow. 3,000 ships, entire fleets worth of vessels gone without a trace. And humanity had been responsible for all of it. But how? Demanded the representative from the hegemony of free worlds. Your technology was supposed to be primitive. Your ships were barely spaceworthy. How could you possibly have captured so many advanced vessels? Fleet Admiral Hyunwoo smiled slightly. It was not a cruel smile, but it was the expression of someone who had been keeping a very big secret for a very long time. Honored representatives, he said, I would like to introduce you to the real capabilities of Earth Defense Command. The lights in the chamber dimmed, and a massive holographic display appeared above the center of the room. It showed the galaxy as seen from space with thousands of star systems marked in different colors. For the past 50 years, Admiral Hyunwoo continued, humanity has been developing defensive technologies based on theoretical physics that most civilizations considered impossible. We focused on research areas that others ignored: dimensional manipulation, temporal mechanics, quantum phase shifting. The display changed to show technical diagrams of human ships and stations. The designs looked nothing like the simple vessels the aliens had seen before. These were sleek, advanced craft that seemed to bend space around them. While other civilizations competed to build bigger guns and stronger armor, Admiral Hyunwoo explained, we learned to fight in ways that made guns and armor irrelevant. We developed ships that could exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. We created weapons that could target specific systems without affecting anything around them. We built facilities that could process entire fleets without a single shot being fired. Dr. Yoonji, now wearing the uniform of Supreme Director of Human Defense Technologies, appeared next to the Admiral. She looked older than she had during the Ninth Fleet operation, but her eyes still held the same brilliant intelligence. The platforms you detected in our system were not missile batteries, she explained. They were dimensional anchor points that allowed us to shift large objects between parallel space and normal space. The energy signatures you measured were not fusion reactors, but quantum processing cores operating at efficiency levels your instruments could not properly read. The alien representative sat in stunned silence as the true scope of human technology was revealed. Ship designs that could phase through solid matter, weapons that could disable electronics from other dimensions, stasis fields that could freeze time itself. But why hide all this? Asked the representative from the collective of trade worlds. Why pretend to be primitive when you had such advanced capabilities? President Minji answered this question personally. Because we needed time, she said simply. When humanity first joined the Galactic Council, we were new to interstellar politics. We needed to understand the threats we would face and develop appropriate responses. Appearing primitive while we prepared gave us the advantage of being underestimated. You mean you have been lying to us for 50 years? Counselor Vexithera accused. We mean we have been careful, President Minji replied, and our caution has been proven correct. When we warned this council about pirate activity and requested cooperation, you laughed at us. When we asked you to avoid our defensive installations, you sent a fleet to challenge us. When we tried to work within the existing system, You dismissed us as children playing with toys. Admiral Hunwu gestured to the holographic display, which now showed the locations of all the captured fleets over the past 50 years. Every ship we have contained was engaged in hostile activity, he said. Pirates attacking civilian vessels, military patrols operating illegally in neutral space, raiders threatening established shipping lanes. We gave warnings. We offered alternatives. But when those approaches failed, we acted to protect innocent beings. What about the crews? High Admiral Kethmore asked. What happens to the 400,000 Saurian warriors you are holding? Supreme Admiral Su Yung, who had been promoted after the successful 9th Fleet operation, stepped forward to answer. All contained personnel are treated in accordance with accepted standards for prisoners of war, she said. They receive regular medical care, adequate nutrition, and psychological monitoring. Their stasis fields include dream simulators that prevent mental deterioration during extended containment. But when will they be released? Vexthara demanded. That, President Minji said, depends on this council. The chamber fell silent again as the aliens processed this statement. President Minji waited a moment, then continued. Earth proposes a new structure for galactic civilization. We offer to serve as the official peacekeeping force for the council, using our defensive technologies to maintain stability and protect civilian populations. In exchange, we request formal recognition of our expanded territorial claims and the authority to enforce interstellar law in designated regions. The proposal was stunning in its scope. Humanity was essentially offering to become the galaxy's police force, using their advanced technology to keep the peace, but they were also demanding a level of authority that no single species had ever held before. And if we refuse? Asked the Trade World's representative. Admiral Hunwu's expression remained calm, but his words carried an unmistakable warning. Then the current situation continues. Hostile fleets disappear. Pirates vanish without a trace. Ships that threaten civilian populations are removed from service. The only difference is that you will have no input into how these operations are conducted. You are threatening us, Vexthara accused. We are offering you a choice, President Minji corrected. For 50 years, we have been protecting this region of space without recognition or compensation. We are willing to expand that protection to cover all Council territories, but only as part of a formal agreement that gives us the authority and resources needed to do the job properly. The debate that followed lasted for 18 hours. Representatives argued, negotiated, and demanded concessions.